Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first to Spartan Grown.
Hello, everybody. I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram as Spartan Grown, all one word with no spaces. Otherwise, you could shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com or russ at the gmlarmy.com for all of your growing or lighting questions.
Happy to have you back. And next up, we've got Noah the Grower.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there and happy to be here.
Happy to have you back. I'm not really sure which direction to take it this week. For some reason, I just was thinking maybe like a hash making episode or hash techniques or hash smoking and things like that. I looked over at this little massage gun that I'll occasionally use for muscle tension and things like that to get little knots and things out of your muscles. But I've seen these recently be implemented to make dry sift hash, where they just literally turn this thing on, it vibrates, and then they hold it against their trim tray, and that bounces the material around, and that allows the keef to maybe less aggressively get knocked off of the buds than if you were just like shaking the entire tray or mashing the buds into the metal screen or whatever. I've seen some really nice blonde, gold, good looking, melty dry sift hash coming off of stuff like that. And it can be just that simple. I mean, literally like a little cheap Amazon massage tool and your trim tray, which is like, maybe like $100 investment in for both of those things. And you've got yourself maybe a little dry sift hash factory for whether it's your trim or your buds that are smaller that you don't want to end up trimming, or you don't mind keefing a little bit. But I prefer to keep the buds as quality as possible, if you're going to use them to make hash specifically and you want to go through the whole process. But there's so many different ways, and I've gotten away from bubble hash, but dry sift is definitely a great one. I don't know too many people these days. I saw a video and I think it was more of a meme, but it kind of gave me flashbacks to some of the people that were like catching themselves on fire or blowing up their labs using improper equipment to open blast. And so there was definitely some lessons learned over the last few decades, I think, of people trying to make their own BHO and things like that at home, or any other concentrate that uses any compressed gas. So be careful and make sure you're doing your research and getting quality equipment if you're going to go down that path. But I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts or updates or topics that you'd like to talk about that maybe we haven't touched on recently in the grow world or cannabis culture side of things.
I don't know. I've been pretty focused on the lighting side of stuff just because of obviously my job. So that's where my focus has kind of been. But I don't know that there's anything cutting edge or new there to
Well,
really
we
talk about.
we did just see that somebody shared it in our group chat. The Chinese apparently invested like $1 billion in their apple growing and basically concluded that if they laid like what looked like mylar sheets down beneath their trees, that it like reduced fungal pathogens and it also increased yield and increased like fruit sweetness, increased like fruit uniformity. So basically like this bro science that was kind of poo-pooed upon for many, many years in the cannabis space. And many of us have like theorized that it might work or might, have benefit, or even now have implemented it in full term and found benefits. And Spartan and others are on that front and kind of the bleeding edge in my opinion. But I think the number was 1 billion, which just seemed kind of like a generic number to be thrown out. But let's say it was actually $1 billion. I mean, they did some research and they tried on some fields with it and without it and found that it's working. Now they're implementing it at pretty large scale. So although it's not using electricity, it's using nature and just reflecting the sun, that would be lost essentially just hitting the ground or the grass and like non-target crop in this situation where obviously most places are monocropping, including cannabis in a lot of cases. But
There's so many benefits to not only the, it's like everything in growing, like you change one parameter, but that's like a ripple in a fucking ocean and you're affecting so many different things. And like what comes to my mind when we're talking about, putting something on the ground that is reflecting back up, that's a positive thing. And at the same time, not only are you reflecting light, you're reflecting heat, right? So you're keeping your roots less hot. And so if it's a hot environment where you're getting a lot of sun where this is probably being used, it's going to benefit your roots too, and then your microbiome in a way, because now it's at a more manageable temperature for them. So all these cascading effects that you don't even really sit and think about it can go on and on and on, and one little change can make a huge difference. And that's why I always encourage people to do that one little change in the grow room and then see what's the result. So, instead of poo-pooing something before trying it, or um, even if you don't try it, but don't crap on somebody else who is. I love seeing people try new things, and then I don't have to. I don't have to make that risk in my garden, and I can see what the results are before I make that decision on if I do want to do that. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on that. I think it's always worth trying to, tweak one thing and see how it affects everything.
Right. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I agree. I've done really well with that. I believe just like that. If I see another grower do it, I'm excited just to find out the results. And that's a cool thing about being in a community of people that you can trust and that know what they're doing. So if they make a decision on something, you can almost just go off of that. You can always try something out yourself too, but it's a huge bonus to have growers around you that are trying things and telling you, hey, this will work, hey, this won't work. Numerous things when I was first coming up, I would go into people's grow rooms and I would just take this one thing and add it to my grow room out of like 10. So that's a definitely a great strategy, I would say.
It's hard because there's so many things, so many variables, so many products that we want to be like, all right, this went wrong on the last grow, so I'm going to change these two things. These two things went wrong, so I'm going to change these two variables. But unless it's just like absolute mistakes, like you didn't water it on time, or like the power went out and your environment got way out of whack or something, um, and you just want to get it in like the ideal range, that's fine if you're going to change more things than one to get your environment into the right setting. But if it's like, I'm going to change my light and my nutrient system, then it's like, well, did the nutrient system help you? Did the light help you? Was it both? Like, how much was attributed to each thing? Like, you'll never really know now because you did both at the same time. And so that new flavor you got with that new light might have been, well, you also just went to organic from, the basic whatever other, it could even been organic, but just like a shittier soil. Not to make it like a synthetic organic thing. Like you just had like a worse soil mix that wasn't as complete or didn't have as many microbial inputs and things like that. So it's interesting that a lot of people, myself included, have done this in the past. This is why I'm heeding that warning is it makes it harder for you to parse out what exactly is giving you that benefit if you do more than one thing at a time. And that one thing actually can become really exciting because you're like, in part of the grow, you might be like, oh, I'm so convinced it's working, it's working, it's working. And then like some parts you're like, yeah, maybe I'm giving too much light. Like, maybe this is off or maybe that's off or whatever. And it's like you can get in your head a lot about it, but I think you should just like set it and let it ride and like get an idea and like obviously make minor adjustments here and there if it's absolutely going awry. Like if you put an underlight on there and then all your plants are showing light stress now because like you put way too much light in. It's like, well, maybe dim all of them, like the top and the bottom, and then like even it out and figure out the right sort of placement for that. But it's a fine balance. And something with the lights that always kind of struck me as interesting is the conversation for a long time used to be, well, we don't want lights or mirrors on the floors of our grow room or mylar on the bottom, like, and grow tents do have that. So, I mean, maybe that was just like a added benefit that was always in there. And that always made sense to me. It's like, why not? If you can bounce some back light like up and around and like, why not? Like, and that glass and mirrors and stuff has its own logistics, problematics and things like that. So breaking the weight, the costs, but like a Mylar sheet or like a Panda film or something, like keeping a nice white floor, like epoxy or like painted walls, that always made sense to me. And when I started seeing people doing the underlighting, like almost all of them had pretty good results, and like most of them haven't stopped doing it. So they've adjusted it or like put more or less or changed how far away or this or that. But like almost all of them are still using some variation of side, under, or both lighting. So that's proof's usually in the pudding.
I used to even pen paper is even nice for like a little mulch, in place of mulch, you can put it on top of your pot and you can put the dark side down and the light side facing up, and that's going to do just what you're saying, help reflect some of that light back up. It might not help a huge amount, but every little bit helps. And it's going to do the same thing. It's going to keep moisture in the top bit of your soil so you don't lose that real estate for your roots. They're going to grow up into that where it's more moist. So that's yeah, a lot of use, a lot of versatility use for that that panda film. You can use it for a lot of stuff in the grow room.
I love Panda Film, and it's like if you could make your light 1%, 2%, 3% more efficient by snapping your fingers, just like that overnight, like why wouldn't you, right? And if putting panda film or orca film or highly reflective mylar in there is going to do that, then it's like you're not you. It's a buy once cry once situation. And like the mylar, like you buy a tent, and they're usually not even that expensive. Like the Vivo Sun was some of the best testing for a long time, and they were some of the most affordable entry level tents in terms of reflectivity and like Migro's third party testing. So you don't have to like spend a crazy amount, and you're not paying the power company every month after that point forward because it's like you're paying the same amount or whatever, but you're getting more for it. So increasing reflectivity always made sense to me. I love grow tents. People always shit on them and knock them if they're like, "Oh, I'm a cool guy who grows for my buddy's trap operation, and we have like a whole basement. Like, fuck you guys in your little grow tents." It's like, yeah, but like, let's go Pepsi challenge and fucking side by side. Like the tent grower smoke, I bet you is gonna blow the guy out who's got 50 lights and is hardly taking care of any of it and just like trapping it out. So I've never poo-pooed tents other than like when I got attacked for him. I was like, man, maybe this isn't the way. Maybe it's not the way, but I just kept getting really good weed. So I'm like, it's working. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And realize that sometimes there's a lot of haters out there that like have never done it or tried it and then they failed and then they think that like everybody else who's doing it a different way is doing it wrong and they'll tell you from the sidelines how you're doing it wrong. And so there is that in the community. There's a great YouTube channel. They're way bigger than ours, so it's like me giving them a shout out's not going to do anything. But Dope as Yola, I think, is how it might be pronounced. I might be fucking up the pronunciation, but it's a dude. He just kind of like smokes, does reviews. Like he's got his own company now. And I've seen him in the community for like the last decade, roughly, or more. And he made a video kind of calling out some of the, I'd say, more problematic parts of the cannabis community. And I think it's worth watching for anybody. There's like no smoking in it, so it's getting pushed out to more of the algorithms and stuff. And he just sits there and like talks for like 20 or 30 minutes. But I think he made a lot of really good points, to be honest. And it was an interesting video, so worth checking out. And I think it's also worth noting that like just because there's problems in the community doesn't mean that they can't be overcome. And we can't like, I think somebody identifying it, him or others, helps us be self-aware, helps us be more understanding and kinder, more compassionate, more informed people. So,
And one thing that you have to remember in the community is this is going to be one of the fastest growing communities for a long time running. You know what I mean? We're at the tip of the iceberg still, folks. We are at the tip of the iceberg. More as more places come, legalization, that's just more new people that are willing to try and more willing people that have, their eyes open when they try and like, oh, this is actually medicinal. This is actually wonderful. I don't have a hangover, all these things. And so I just, and I don't think it has any special power or anything, but I foresee there's going to be a huge growing to the community. So yeah, we have a community right now, and then sometimes there's issues, or whatever, but we are like a drop in the ocean to what the community is going to be. So, I mean, you can be nothing but optimistic about you're going to find your people for sure. If you haven't already, which probably, if you're part of the community, you kind of have found your people, but there's corners within the community that everybody wants to section off, which whatever. But I think if as long as we all remember, we're all part of the cannabis community, right? And there is a common goal there, and that's legalization and the ability to grow your own medicine at home, and those kind of things are the things that we need to like die on a cross for. But whether you can call it Skittles with a Z or two Z's is not something you need to really die on a cross for. So, I mean, if we can keep that perspective, I think we'll do good.
I
I'm with
hope
you
you're
on that.
right. I hope you're right. I don't know. I've never been to, Michigan or anywhere over there, but it's not that way here. I am like last of the Mohicans. Every single grocery store in my town closed down. Obviously, that has a lot to do with Amazon and ordering stuff from your house. I can't lie, I'm guilty of that. But it's a lot there. I never was. I never did it one time until the grocery store closed. But I mean, like, you'd be surprised. Like, people are like dunking on me, like, "Well, you're still growing pot." I'm just like, "Yeah, okay." Uh, and I seen that Jack liked it. Somebody, I believe, Abolish Farms had a meme on Instagram, and it was like a dude in a bed, and he's like getting sick from the cheapo Z's. So I hope you're right, Spartan. I just sometimes I'm just like, wow, like, and then you got people like, oh wow, look at this stuff I got, and I'm just looking at it like, are you effing kidding me? Like, you don't even know what good weed is. So there, I mean, I'm, but of course, I'm a, some people would consider me a gross snob, because I live this stuff. So, but I just am, like I said, I'm on the other side of the fence. I just seen so many people that I know. Like I would say, probably in my circle, there used to be five, six of us that grow, and like literally, there's one of the guy I know that's been doing it, that keeps doing it. So I hope you're right, and I hope more people bring. That's why I'm here, and I hope other growers figure it out. Like you said, grow your own medicine at home, and you have access to it. You know what goes into it. You know what you get. You know what you want. You can try new stuff. I love it, but like I said, I've been dunked on by people. So
It's a
um,
battle. It's a battle both
man,
directions because like we do have new people coming in for sure, but we are what I'd consider a very small sliver of the community being a home grower. A lot of people have
right,
never seen a plant, let alone grown one. And like that channel I talked about, like they've got a million plus subs and they'll do like product reviews and vape reviews or whatever. And like those channels tend to have hundreds of thousands or millions of viewers. If you look at any of the grow channels, like the biggest ones I've seen might have a, maybe a few hundred thousand. I don't know if I know any like pure cannabis grow channel that's got millions of subs. And it just shows that we're more of in the niche side of the community. I think Mr. Canucks, I think, is probably like one of the biggest channels I've seen and has done a good job navigating the algorithm without getting their page or pages deleted. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what are the biggest cannabis grow content things out there that you guys know about?
Well,
Dude grows?
Mr. Grow It, I think, is bigger than the most. He's affiliated with some other shows, but his I think he's got a kind of a PC show. And that would be, I think it's just called Garden Talk with Mr. Grow It, and that one's got quite a few followers if I remember right. And he's probably the biggest one that I know of, and I think it's mostly because he'll talk to the big players. I know him. I've met him. Chris, um, shout out to him. He asked me to do a show, but he's so PC, you're not allowed to even say certain cannabis words like cannabis, and so I had to decline. But um, I could see why. It's because he wants to avoid all the breaking any of the rules and stuff for YouTube, and he's got a big following, so I understand it. And but Yeah, that would be so hard for me. I already knew this. Like, I'm not gonna set myself up for failure, so I will not. I can't agree to that. But I don't know. I want to shout out Getting High with Cats. That's an Instagram account that is another activist that I'm actually trying to I'm reaching out and trying to get him on the Let's Be Bud show. He's doing a lot of work over in Maine, I believe it is, and and he's doing so much. It reminds me of like the MCMA struggle out there a little bit, and he put it so perfectly. He went on like a little rant on his channel, and he said, he said, everybody knows that I'm not a huge proponent. Like, I don't love all these cannabis events. He goes, and the thing that makes me angry about the cannabis events, he goes, is we can get together with these events and you can have them in all these different microclimates. It can be just in Maine, it could be just in Michigan, it could be just in California, it could be Spannabis in Spain, and you'll get amazing turnouts of all these people and everything like that. But when you want to turn out for there's a vote or there's a rally at the Capitol to change the laws, it would affect all of those people that are at those events, all of those businesses that are at those events. Nobody's there. It's crickets. So, he was just going on a big old rant or whatever. I'm like, wow, that's a great way to say that, though. It's like, come on, you can go to an event, to support the farmer, which is awesome. That's directly support of the farmer, or whatever, and I love that. But at the same time, when you're saying, hey, we need to go talk to these lawmakers and educate them about why this stuff is good, and they don't show up for that in droves like they do for the other things. It's a little selfish and a little defeatist, you're kind of defeating yourself in that aspect. And I just thought that was a cool perspective that I never really considered before. So just wanted to share it.
I'll tell you my 2 second theory on the response to why. It's events are fun. We need to make a way to get political activism, at least in this side of the community, to be enjoyable. And I would say, at least in
Oh,
Michigan, you guys are doing better than most places. Like political movement you guys had, the hash bash, which was a protest before it was ever legal. So you had a bunch of people come together and it's like, hey, if there's, and many places have done this, if you get so many people in one spot and they all just light up at 420, the cops can't arrest 10,000 people at once, right? There's only 200 of them in your town or whatever it is. So they'd have to have the whole staff come on and arrest like 100 people
That's
each.
happened in 2 weeks, by the way. Hash bash is in 2 weeks.
So shout
First
out
week
to Hash
in
Bash.
April. Yeah.
But also shout out to like when you guys go to the Capitol, it's not just like standing around twiddling thumbs. You guys get a fucking speaker and a microphone, and you have planned guests like Spartan Grown that have legitimate fans out there and followers that want to hear Spartan Grown speak in person and then talk to him after and tell him, how awesome it was. And maybe next time you could talk about X, Y, and Z, or, you did a fucking amazing job or whatever. It's great to meet you kind of thing. And just maybe fucking hook each other up with a little smoke. But it's making it enjoyable, making it fun, making it part of like a real movement that I think will get people wanting to be involved. Because right now, when like I hear politics, because that's really what it is, voting is politics, people tune out. They close their ears up because, or they want to get ready to start arguing because it's like my side, your side, blah 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 blah. Like I want this, they want that, but you're right, I'm wrong, blah blah blah, and or I'm right, you're wrong, and it gets into that place where a lot of people come to shows like these maybe to avoid that kind of thing. But that said, without the law, we're living in the kind of state that many of us grew up in, which is living in fear of having your door kicked in, living in fear of having your, pets shot or being arrested, for minor amounts even. And some people still live in that circumstance. So the fight continues. Last Prisoner Project and also just others to help better cannabis policy here in the U.S. and across the world. Because if you want to ever travel outside the U.S., then you don't want to have to worry about getting locked up or killed or whatever. There are serious consequences for it in other places, and it's like I laugh, an uncomfortable laugh, because it makes me kind of cringe to think that there are people getting life sentences here and abroad or being put to death over cannabis, whether it's use or distribution. I just think most of us can agree that's wrong.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Shout out to chat, man. Much love. They're all giving me these comments, Spartan Grown 2028. And I don't know if I would want to wish that on my worst enemy, having to work in politics every day with these people. Oh my gosh. It's just they just need an education. That's all they need is an education. So, and they listen to people that have one, A, money, right? Or two, lots of people. You know what I mean? So if lots of people show up or lots of people email or lots of people, and that's how we were able to affect change in Michigan was just that. It was grassroots. It was spreading the words on social media. It was pushing uh, a uh, a boycott list. Um, and that is, the industry will tell you that it wasn't a big deal, the boycott list, but at the same time, they were email. Shout out to Berg from Medical Mondays and Roach from Medical Mondays. Uh, but they were getting messages constantly from businesses wanting to get off the list if they were on it, wanting to know why they were on the list if they were on it. But publicly facing statements, they didn't know anything about it, and it was no big deal. But it was a huge deal, and it made a big deal. And in fact, the MCMA, the lobby group that was pushing for the law change, dropped it, and they in fact didn't resub, so they weren't even a lobby group after that. So
Once your name is that tarnished, they'll just rebrand and reorganize elsewhere. But it shows the
that's
power of
good.
getting the word out. It shows the power of like, I watched this video and it's an older video, but I saw like a different angle of it recently. There's this guy, he's dancing at some concert. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but he's just like short shorts dancing by himself. I guess he drank a little bit of alcohol and had some mushrooms and was having a good old time, just dancing by himself. Well, eventually, like some other dude runs up and starts dancing with him, and then a third dude comes up and starts dancing with him. And by like the end of this, I don't know, 3 minute video, there's like 1,000 fucking people swarm, and just like it's like the mob mentality. And whether we like to believe it or not, we do all have a little bit of that social, peer pressure, and like even if a brand is really hot for a long time, um, Bud Light went through this recently, where they like made a marketing decision that a lot of people pushed back against, and they were like a huge brand for a long time, but they took a huge financial hit just from one decision that they made in marketing. So I think that the idea of kind of the wisdom of the crowds or even just like the peer pressure of a crowd. Like when a brand becomes unpopular, like you don't even want to be seen buying it in the store, right? Because it's like, oh man, that's the one on the ban list. I don't want to be the guy who's supporting. Like I knew like Kiva was an edible company that like they make stuff here in California as well. And I was like, well, fuck, I like these Kiva products, but I'm not buying them anymore because they're supporting banning home growing in Michigan. I can't be fucking caught dead eating one of these edibles when I'm out here saying fuck the MCMA and boycott, boycott, boycott. And so voting with our dollars, I think, is actually some of the most truly effective way to vote. Boycotts are effective, and they've shown to be many, many times. Like if you don't like a brand, don't buy their product, and then eventually they will cease to exist if enough people feel that way. And
And even if you love it and it's the most cherished thing that you do at maybe a certain time every day, sometimes you still say, you know what? Fuck you. This is what we think about you. We're gonna grab it and throw it in the fucking harbor, and we're not gonna fucking participate in it anymore. And because, we're drawing the line here. And that's just the most American thing you can do, if you ask me. There's so many examples in our history where it's been done.
I mean, like the foundation of the country, right? The Boston Tea Party, like a revolt
Absolutely, man.
over a 3% tax, by the way. We're fucking getting 32% tax to cannabis, so maybe it's time.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are revving up my engines here. It's like you're inside my brain. I'm a huge history buff. I'm a huge Boston Tea Party guy. I've been researching that recently. 3% tax, and I couldn't agree more. Vote with your dollars. People have no idea how important that is over time, and I just couldn't agree more.
Well, it feels good when you actually take the time to do some research and you find a company that's doing things like ethically or morally or well. Like I can commonly recommend Dr. Bronner's soaps to anybody because their CEO doesn't take a huge amount of the profits. He profit shares with the employees. I see driving around all the time and they don't really push this or advertise this much, but it says humanities showers. And there's just these showers and it's fueled by Dr. Bronner's. They have Dr. Bronner soaps. They drive around for people that need a fucking shower, whatever the reason may be. And you might have different feelings about this or that. But however you feel about the unhoused or homeless or temporarily experiencing homelessness, whatever you want to call that population of people, I think we can all agree that like as a human to human level, like you don't want people just filthy living on the street. And if you could have the humanity of giving them the ability to get a shower from a company that, by the way, is doing it out of their own pocket, it's not taking some tax fund or third party NGO money. It's just their mission statement is to kind of do good and help spread positivity. And like they're local, they're right here in my backyard in San Diego, California area. They also happen to make really good soap. I just like the fucking soap. And like I'm not getting paid anything or plugged anything to say this. I've actually thought about maybe reaching out to them and maybe like, you guys should sponsor us. And I've reached out to other soap companies that I like that like never got a response or whatever. But that being said, I like not having a sponsor. I like not being withholding to anybody. We can say whatever we want, think whatever we want, do whatever we want. We don't have to waste. The only sponsorship or whatever is like ourselves plugging ourselves if we have any product or place we're going to be, like letting people know our Instagram handle, our Twitter handle, or where our website is or whatever. If you for a minute at the end or beginning of the show, but aside from that, we just come here and talk about cannabis, growing the community, and all that stuff. And uh, I think that keeps it unbiased and untainted. And a lot of these channels that do get to those higher numbers of subscribers, whether it's the hundreds of thousands in the grow side of things or the millions in the just general cannabis content, are brand affiliated. And they're doing what Spartan's saying. They can't say cannabis. They can't say fuck, shit, whatever. Like all the bleeped words or whatever on the YouTube algorithm, like they have to literally look at a list and like either censor their videos after the fact or deliberately avoid certain words. So like weed is allowed to be said because weed could be talking about like weed growing on the ground, right? So like a big channels that I'll follow that when they're talking about cannabis, they'll say weed because weed could be a dandelion. It could be some other weed, right? So you're allowed to say weed, even in like the context, like the AI or algorithm or whatever, the screeners aren't good enough at detecting that kind of shit. And like people will game it. Like the first few minutes of the video, they'll like do non cannabis stuff, and then they'll fucking start talking about all the cannabis. But there's little ways and shit to go around it. But personally, I don't have the time or energy to research and like I'm not YouTubing isn't my career or goal or path. This is like something I do out of a passion and a hobby on the side. Like I would do this and have done this for 2 hours when we couldn't even get the show on YouTube. I just hung out with you guys and we talked and we had a great conversation. Like Noah was there, Spartan was there. Like I have like a 30-minute clip of that that I'll probably share with just the guys because it's not super relevant to the growing, and it was more just me going through technical difficulties trying to get the show started. But the point remains is like I also love that we have, a few thousand people that come, maybe 100 or so live, and 1,000 roughly on YouTube, and a few thousand on the podcast platforms that listen afterward, which make us have a broader reach and be able to connect with more people. Because as I talked about earlier, I do think even like the Mr. Grow It videos, I think a lot of people that watch some of that stuff aren't growing. Like once these channels get to the above 50,000, like I don't know if there's that many home growers. There might be people that like work in a grow facility or just love cannabis, and so they're going to follow everything about it and want to learn a little bit more. And like even like people that follow this channel, I'm sure there's some percentage that are not growing. Like I bet you it's a relatively small percent if you look at like general viewership across like most channels, like what percentage of our people are actually growing. Like it's very high because I know a lot I've smoked a lot of your guys' bud. Like it's real. I'm the proof is in the pudding. I've tried it, but a lot of just general viewership on YouTube or any other platform, podcast platforms, could be just, entertainment, edutainment, whatever it is, a way for people to pass time on their way to and from work. Just they like cannabis and we talk about it a lot, and it's not always growing. We talk about culture or, events and things that are happening in the community. So it is often around or related to growing, but we do stray. And I think that we try to keep it within the cannabis realm as much as possible. But like today, like politics is directly intertwined because there are people still behind bars because of like cannabis charges. And we were doing Last Prisoner Project. We did it with like the whole show for a little while, but Rick last year, I think to make it more of a personal touch and feel that had direct connection, he had me interview Brandon Rust, who's been incarcerated twice for cannabis. And I think, who knows? I don't know what the total donations or after impact are. Like I just do it because it feels like the right thing to do. And when I'm asked to rise up to that occasion, I'm happy to do it. But I enjoyed it both when we did our whole panel show, just like we normally would do, like on the day of that fundraiser. But I also enjoyed interviewing Brandon, and both of them felt like they had, well, I saw donations coming in. So even if it was like $1, $5, $10, it was being doubled by Dutchies. And over time, like they've raised over $1 million that they matched, I think, and they committed, I think, even more money. And so it's just been a great movement. And like I said, I'm sure we've probably driven away some people just already talking about politics or whatever, but it is one of those uncomfortable things that I think it's sort of our duty to act. Otherwise, we get subjugated to we're going to push you into the corner and we're going to let the big businesses capture. Like Ohio, when they first went to legalize, it was going to be like only 5 companies can get a license. And it's just a straight up monopoly. And whenever that kind of shit gets pitched, it's like, this is rigged from the start. So there's almost a guarantee people are not going to have a good system because the products are going to be unaffordable, and it's going to make people essentially, you know, not be able to use as much as they might need to treat an ailment or experiment with a bunch of different strains and get to try which ones work best for them, because it's just cost prohibitive to try 1,000 strains if each one sets you back, 50, 60, 70, $80 for an eighth. That's not even a real eighth because in Ohio it's like 2.8 grams. So it's like a tenth of an ounce or some shit. Some crazy stuff. But we got a question from Asno Grows who says, Sheep Home Grow and Chat, has anyone noticed a difference in aromas when comparing top bud colas as to comparing middle and lower nugs? And I would say yes, absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason that the bottom slash side lighting is becoming a thing. The top nugs get the most direct light. They're usually going to be the biggest and the frostiest. I would argue that sometimes what I call the shoulder nugs, like that are just like 1 or 2 nodes down from the top buds, might be the terpiest in my experience, sometimes with some strains. But oftentimes the tops are just the best all around everything. They have the most terps, the most cannabinoids. There's enough commercial facilities now doing testing that you can just see like A's, B's, C's, smalls, etc. Like there's been millions of pounds growing at this point between California, Colorado, Michigan, and you could see these things being sorted, and like the bigger buds from the top or higher up on the plant are 80, 90 to 100% of the time going to be better, but not always. In your own grow room, for whatever reason, with certain genetics, you might have like those shoulders or middle buds, in my experience, be a little bit terpier, smell or taste better for whatever the reason, not just terpenes. There's a lot to the aromatic profile I've talked about at length in the past, but the bottoms are almost never the best. I'll say that. So until somebody really dials in that bottom lighting. And even then, I think physiologically the plant evolved to grow the apical or like top buds is like maybe like the best, most reproducible, or I don't know what the exact reasoning for why it would be more fragrant before humans came along and started trying to maybe to attract other plants and or animals and things like that, or repel certain insects. But all that aside, I think even with like if you had 1,000 ppf hitting at the top of your canopy, the bottom of your canopy, and the middle of your canopy, I think you're still going to notice some quality difference between tops, middles, and nugs or bottom nugs.
They also gave us a little update here. They said that it's cool because they grow on Spartan Puke. Let me find it. I've noticed on my Spartan Puke, the top of the spear has a citrus note and the bottom has the absolutely funk. And I totally believe it as well. And I think it's a lot to do with the light, right? So the light, there's like three things really that we know is gonna push stuff towards more ripeness, right? And that's gonna be either light or it's gonna be the heat or time. And you're gonna get both of those from being closer to the light and heat. And so I could totally see for one, the bud may be mature a little bit faster than the buds below it. So that's going to be, as the buds mature, the profile changes a little bit. And then being closer to the heat, man, you're just going to have the higher heats, which means you're going to be able to flash off more of the more volatile terpenes and those ones that are the lower flash points. And the ones that are lower in the canopy are further away from that heat, so maybe they'll be preserved more. So I can totally see that it can make sense for it to be different terpenes. And in your example specifically too, it's the Spartan Puke. It comes from it's a vortex cross to Donnyburger, and that vortex is where the citrus is coming from. And there is even a like a rotten citrus side to vortex. And Donnyburger also brings in those really savory kind of pungent notes as well. So yeah, that makes sense to me that would they would be there for you to smell. I mean, it's definitely in the genetics.
Yeah, I think sometimes the shoulders can be, I wouldn't say quite the tops, but sometimes the tops can get a little, I would almost say just light exhaustion. And the middle of that top is still going to probably be just as good as anything. But sometimes it's kind of weird. It just, maybe that's an HBS thing. Maybe it's just something in my environment. But, tops are still going to be, you know, the best. And our Washington recreational market has made some strides here. I think we were the second, one of the top states that did it. I don't know, what was it? Colorado was first, right? For recreational, and Washington was right behind. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think.
Cali first, maybe. I
I
can't
know
remember.
Michigan passed California for a series of months and like tax revenue, but like from
Oh,
what
he's
I
talking
understand,
about just legalization of recreational, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Like what year it was legalized.
hmm
Colorado was first. I don't know who was second.
I think California came shortly after Colorado.
Nah, Washington was second
Oh,
for
okay.
sure on that. And it was basically like the same day.
The thing
Um,
is, we had a medical program here from 1996, and it was pretty extensive. So, like, we got legalization late because we shot down like 10 bills. Like I mentioned with Ohio, where they had like these really bad legalization bills that came up, that the people were like, no, fuck this. Like, we've got a good medical program. Why would we take some shitty adult use program that's gonna raise a bunch of taxes and make it only available for a certain amount of people? And like when we finally did legalize, it was like supposed to be like a 5 or maybe 10 acre cap or something like that. So the small producers could have a chance. But then like people stacked licenses, did a lot of buying licenses under different names and things like that. So like just like any legal business, they find the loopholes and work around them, and that's capitalism for you, I guess. But it
yeah,
drove a lot of the small producers out and did exactly what people feared during the medical program would happen, which was it kind of destroyed a lot of the market. A lot of these guys that like Noah was talking about were producing dang killer shit that like they were the best guy on their block or area. People would drive maybe half an hour to come get their shit, and they had special stuff. They had like a Spartan glue and like their own stable of cuts that they were known for, and that to me is like a craft cottage industry that's like a beautiful thing. But what we're moving towards is like the commercial apple industry, where it's like you get Granny Smith, you get, you know, Cosmic Crisp or whatever, and like a few others. And that's a Gala Golden Delicious or whatever. Like you get like 5 or 6 apples, not the 1,000 strains that we have now. And not to say that like we need 1,000, but maybe like 100 or like 50, like 75. Like you keep some variety. I get like a lot of the candies and cookies are just recycled versions of themselves, and I think that's generally from a position more of convenience than purpose, because people just don't keep cuts alive as long as we'd like to pretend that many times if you're doing it as a solo effort, it's so hard to do it for so long. The reason Chem 91 is still alive from 1991 is because he passed it off. Skunk VA kept it alive for a while, and then it got back to Chem. But without that, that wouldn't have happened. Same with like the OG. Like OG got out. There's a reason that it's still around. I think that the OG crew has like messed it up or killed it or lost it a few times and gotten it back. But that's part of sharing with the community. And at the same time, I think we can move towards a position where what other plant are people out there like going and buying clones of? And well, there, not to say that it doesn't happen. It does happen. Obviously, wine, there's a bunch of different grape varieties and vines and things like that. And you can go probably look at every different industry and there's clones that will sell in like the top niche side of the market. But when it gets down to like the average home grower, which is like going to be the Jeff Lowenfels target market of like plant an autoflower in your pot in your front yard and like your grandma can grow it kind of thing. Like set it, forget it, just water it. And I think those are going to be just like packages of seeds, like you're going to see like how you can go buy marigolds at Home Depot in a little, paper packet. It's not going to be $10 a seed in 50 years. It's going to be 10 cents a seed in 50 years. And that's with the cost of the dollar is going to be, less purchasing power, but the cost of the seeds are going to keep coming down in my estimation.
2012. That's when Washington and Colorado legalized, and it was essentially the same day. They beat us by 3 hours because of the time difference, but it was the exact same day. I knew it. I remembered it. It was a big day. It was a scary day. I had only been growing for a very little time at the time, and so I was really nervous, but rolled with the punches here, and yeah, it's
My,
been a fun ride, that's for sure.
my thought is if you love anything enough, you can always find a way to make it happen. And so like even if that's like a little personal home grow and you just go work a job that you're 9 to 5 or whatever, so you can afford a home grow for yourself, like that is making it happen. Like you don't need to be growing 1,000 plants and 100 lighter. Like I think a lot of people get these, especially because we all like to progress and like we start at one place and you want to get more and more and better and better and better. My thought is focus on the better, get the quality better. Don't worry about the more. The more will come in terms of like you'll get better and you're going to get better yields and things like that. And you'll experiment with different strains. Some will do better than others, but I think most people tend to find they want one that yields good enough, but the quality is what you're after and the uniqueness is what you're after. You don't want, well, even if like you got the gelato cut or whatever, wedding cake, name a strain, and you grew it to like perfection, but like gelato that you get from the store is like a 9 out of 10 to you because you like gelato, right? Maybe yours is a 10 out of 10. You're improving like a 1 out of 10 metric when you can like find something that's absolutely not available to you. So you have like a 0 out of 10 on that score and that flavor and that high. So you can just pop a seed and then go find like a Spartan puke. Like the thing that when I heard that description, I almost thought he was talking about just your Project V, because the top could be citrusy and the bottom could be funky just on Vortex. And I was like, oh man. And then I was like, oh wait, there's Donnie in there, and Donnie's definitely got funk. And I wouldn't be surprised if some gassy notes or something came out of there because Donnie's just got a ton of kind of fuely, gassy, chemi. Uh, Donnie's just, I can't, I need to F2 my remaining seeds because I still have like 5 or 6 of them. And I always talk about that. And
Yeah, you
everybody's
do.
like,
Let me know when you do.
I'll definitely send you a shit ton of them because you've hooked me up quite a bit with all the seeds that you've made. So I'll be more than happy to share when I F2 the Donnies. And it'll be like Donnie F2 and then like a cross to the Velvet Punch F2 and F3. And I'll make whatever I've got my hands on at the time into the crosses of that and send you
Nice.
what's available with it. But that's the whole fun of it. Like us doing little crosses and variations like that, keeping the cottage industry unique and like spreading away from that bottleneck. Because like if we all were just like gelato is the best strain, so I'm gonna make the best version of gelato available from seed. But if that was all of our goal and we all just tried to do that same thing, we all end up with like some pretty cool gelato, but then we lose Durban poison and fucking a million other strains, right? But I just said Durban because that's what I'm smoking on right now, and it is fantastic. I love good Durban.
Smoking on. Speaking of it, shout out to Baked Pone and the Trichome Forge. We got some Donny Burger right here, rosin, fresh frozen.
What kind of
Oh
smells are you getting off of that?
God, Donny Burger smells. It's like they said, it's like a gassy funk. It's really like gassy and funky. It's not as gassy as like Han. I would say Han Solo Burger is a gassier version of this, and this is a funkier version of that.
Because
Um,
Han Solo's got just the one GMO and then the Lario GF8, and then the Donnie adds basically another GMO. So it's like a GMO back cross. So do you get garlicky notes at all out of your
yeah, yeah, I get it's like GMO without the onion.
I like that. We've got a black
Yes.
garlic right now. Lady G just I don't want to talk about the denominations, but she definitely got a decent quality or quantity of good quality buds is like part of a job she's been working. And it fucking this black garlic is fantastic. It smalls, but it's still fucking good. It's like not even super fresh, but I'm sometimes impressed by some of the stuff that she comes across. So I'm not like one of those people going back to that dope ass Yola or dope ass Yola, I don't know, video. He was talking about how some people like think that only their bud is good. Like everybody else's
Yeah,
shit is
yeah.
garbage. They'll
Oh
like
yeah.
look at it and be like, oh man, that's not good. My stuff's better. This is like and like if they think that like nobody could ever hold a candle to their shit, like, and they're not even open to other people's smoke. Like, I think that he's got a point. Like, some people are riding a little bit too much on the ego train there, but some people, like, and rightfully so, I would believe, like Noah and Spartan are both probably growing better buds than the people, maybe down the street or around the corner or up the block or whatever, or even
I
around
think
the
that I'm
country.
better than average, but I don't think I'm the best out there. But I do, maybe this is conceited, but I do have like I'm smoking in a smoke circle. There's a new whatever, black garlic, you said. Black garlic comes my way and I smoke it and I like that shit. I'm not gonna lie, the first thing I say in my head is, I wonder if I can get this and grow this. I wonder what my version of this would be like. And it's not because I'm conceited in that I think I can do better or worse. It's like, what would it be like? Because that's the way fucking cannabis is.
How different will it
Very,
be?
yeah, it's very rare that you smoke something, you know, and you're like, oh, I love that. And then you get that strain and you grow that shit in your environment and it comes out exactly like what you smoke. That's very rare. But
Super rare.
but
Close.
sometimes the strain's really strong and the terpenes are really strong and thick or whatever. And you're like, yeah, I bet you I could at least get close to this. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that for sure. I do think
Well, it's
about
fun to like challenge yourself, like, hey, can I grow it better than this person? Not just like, oh, I need to grow it because I'm gonna do it better, kind of thing. Or maybe
yeah.
that's just like my general attitude about them. But like, I have taken some stuff. Um, I took my buddy's J1 cut, and he grows it better than me. His environment, his equipment puts out better J1 than I could put out in my environment. Like, it's not worth me. Just like I felt like with my Donnie Burger that I pheno hunted in my environment and like my equipment mine was a 9. His was like a 10.5 out of 10. It was like off the fucking charts good. So it's like even though mine probably most people would call it a 10 out of 10. It knocked somebody out in 30 minutes of smoking. Like they came over midday, like after a coffee, fucking smoked it on the couch and were passed out watching TV like within 30 minutes. I was like that fucking strong, long time experienced smoker, been around weed their whole life. And it's like some shit is just that's what I love about it though. It's like it's the ultra potency, and because I'm such a regular user and like I grew it and get a little bit strain tolerant to some of the stuff, to me it's just like, oh, this is good smoke. It's good pain relief. It feels good. Like it almost stimulates me because I'm so used to being on such a heavy dose of a heavy high. Some people aren't used to
You're
that
like, ooh, I
ride.
feel this. This is great. I feel it.
It's like a weight vest, man. Like some people say like couch lock or whatever, but like yeah, some stuff is definitely not the most motivating. This I will say I was a little bit sleepy before I was smoking this Durban, and it has picked me the fuck up. I feel like I took a shot of coffee or an espresso or something, and it reminds me why I fucking do love sativas or uplifting or whatever you want to refer to them as, that kind of cannabis, because I don't love caffeine as much. I get the jitters. Like I get more of a negative side effect with a lot of it. Other than recently I've talked about I have fallen back in love with espresso. And so But that being said, I'm trying to use it as little as possible. So that way, when I do use it, I get a great effect because I feel like my dad used to drink a huge ass cup of coffee every morning, and then he'd have like another one by like midday if he started coming down. And it's just like anything. The more you use it, the more tolerance you get. So like me with cannabis, if I use it all the time, like I do, wake up, smoke bong bowls, like I'm gonna need a bong bowl when I wake up. It's not gonna be okay for me to fucking puff on a vape pen. Like if I'm on a trip or something, like just bringing a vape or something or buying a vape there, like no, that ain't gonna do it. Like even joints, like it'll get me there a lot better for sure. But like I am so stoked when I get back home and I can rip that bong and like have even considered, and we have carrying bags more for when we moved, but like padded bong cases and like for a while. I used to actually like when I was at like a homie's house, I'd bring them over. Fuck it, like pour the bong water out, fucking throw the bong in the bag, throw it in the car, going to chill as long as they're down with you smoking at their place. Um, that was like not an irregular thing around here at least. So I think having the right equipment, it's just like it is a medicine. So I think the delivery device, a lot of people love vapes, a lot of people love dabs and edibles and things like that. I think the method of delivery completely alters the experience. So like I could have a Durban poison edible and that might take 2 hours or even if it's like a micro or whatever, it might, 30, 40 minutes. But this, I smoked it and instantly, like by the time I exhaled it, I was feeling good and it just gets better and better. So sometimes while I don't know about you guys, I'll pass it to Spartan and ask him about this. Do you ever feel it while you're still inhaling the hit? Like while you're still like clearing the bong, it's like, oh my God, I can already feel it before I've even exhaled.
Starting to hit you? Very rarely. I don't know that. I'm trying to think. It would take like a concentrate, something like that, you know? Like if I was doing a dab, yeah. Yeah, for sure when I do dabs, especially if I do big hot dabs. Like if I want to really just smash my head against the wall, instead of doing that, I'll grab a big fat dab and then make sure that I heat it up a little hotter than normal so that I can melt it all. Because, you know, when you throw in that oil, it's gonna cool down your piece, and then it's might get, depending on if you're like stingy like I am, and you're sitting there, you're actually measuring the temperature of your banger, and you're trying to get it to the best point where it's a low temperature. It's low enough to give you the best terp you hit, but it's high enough to evaporate it all. You know, there's a science to that too. So, that right there is probably one of the best, quickest reliefs that I've experienced for sure. And yeah, as you're blowing it out even, it's that maybe it's a lot of it is that I don't want to say it's tradition, but just that taking that if I was just to take a warm hit of air, would I still get some relief just from the act of doing that? I don't know. My mind thinks of that right now as we speak.
A
But
deep breath is it will change people. Like when somebody's really, I work with special needs kids, and that's actually one of the tools we keep teaching for like a healthy coping mechanism if they're like screaming, yelling, getting physically aggressive. So it's like deep breath,
yep,
and it just fucking it resets you a little bit. I mean,
it's
I've seen
just
it
meant to stop.
from sports to, special needs to typical individuals, at all levels. In traffic, somebody cuts you off, instant thought, like, F you, go fuck yourself, whatever. You might have
Yeah,
that. It's like because
but
you're driving a multi-thousand-pound vehicle, like your life's on the line. Realistically, like you're angry because you're in danger, and it's not like you actually hate that person. It's just like, oh fuck, like I don't want to get in an accident, so you get startled and react. But if you just take a breath, and realize I'm never gonna see this person again, or think that, and just like let them go. Like you never know what their issues or whatever might be, or what they might or might not have. So best to not get out of the car, best to not confront people, and avoid as much as you can, de-escalate, evade and
yeah, well, it's
avoid
like a
those
fuse. That's why
situations.
I look at it. It's like lighting a fuse, right? And your thoughts, they'll get that circular, and you get mad, and they build on each other, and they get more and more before until you explode. But if that deep breath is taking that fuse and cutting it and giving a break, and sometimes it's enough to stop it, and it doesn't light back up. But yeah, take that minute. That helps a lot.
I think that's why bongs are partially like meditative. You
Yeah.
have to, I literally have to, before I hit it, I'm exhaling so that I can fill my lungs full of smoke. And granted, you could take a smaller hit, but I like to take a fucking huge rip. And like you said, it's just that even the breath itself, it's like part of the ritual. And even go back like ancient times and ancient ways, like they used to like beat drums and like throw hash into like milk, like they called it like bang in India, and they drink the shit. But it was like part of a ritual and like a ceremony, and like a lot went into it. It wasn't just like, an edible. It was like a lot went into that, and I think that really impacts the overall. Like I could use the same Durban poison in a joint, and I think it's gonna be a little bit more sedating because I think the paper it like makes my eyes get lower, like my eyes get a little bit squintier than if I smoke out of a bong for some reason. And same with like a blunt, but I think that's like tobacco and mixing with the cannabis makes it more potent. There's been some studies that showed that, but also I'm not, I have no tobacco tolerance because I never use it. So like when I smoke blunts, I just get way more fucked up. But yeah, it's like the same strain in so many different delivery. A pipe, a spoon pipe is going to hit me different than a bubbler or a Sherlock. It cooling
Yep.
it down like that long. Some people swear by a Sherlock. I know some guys only smoke out of, and I've Spartan used one for a long time. It's nice. They cool down the smoke. Like it really is. Like um steamrollers, like Eagle made like a couple out of like glass water bottles with like a hole in them, and you fucking fill it up with
Right.
smoke. You smoke a joint like that versus smoking a joint like this, or the super puffer or whatever the fuck they was called that you could like put a joint into and like it like
Squeeze
crazy
it.
rips.
Yeah.
That would get you way higher on the same material, same size joint. It's just like
So it's actually forcing air into your lungs. It's like taking a what's it called?
shotgun.
Yeah, shotgun. It's like taking a shotgun, exactly.
Someone blows it down into your throat essentially or into your lungs. Some good times there for sure. Good memories.
I still think that a joint is probably my favorite if I'm going to burn flower and I want the flavor of that flower, like it's a new strain or something, I want it in a joint. And then, but my,
It's clean. You're guaranteed clean. That's the beauty of a joint. It's like a
yeah,
bong, like as clean as I can get it. Like I've still got a little bit of like stuff on the sides. I use these little scrapers and I'll alcohol it at least once a week with alcohol and salt. Shake it, hot water it at least like once a day. Get it, make it as fresh as I can get it. But yeah, it's easy to get a bong dirtier than a fresh paper. Even after like your first couple hits, the down stem of your bowl is instantly starting to get tarred up and resiny. So a joint's always gonna. That being said, you get the little resin ring on your joint, which I think a lot of people like to see. Good weed, good
yeah,
sign of good weed.
yeah. My everyday driver though is still the bong. I still smoking out of that 90% of the time. And then dabs, I love dabs too for just the higher potency, right? So it gets me there faster. So I don't have to smoke 12 bowls. I can smoke one dab and maybe one or two bowls and be good.
That is a nice factor. I do think that switching up strains as much as you can is nice too. Like we've got a lot of different stuff. So I'll get strain tolerant to it. And so I try to switch. I have like at least two strains on my tray at any given time. That way, like, one is usually daytime, one is more nighttime. But even if I wake up and I'm like, fuck it, I might go back to bed or I might wake up. Like I'm gonna smoke the nighttime stuff. And like if I can stay awake through it, then I'll switch over to the daytime in a little bit. But yeah, it's just good to have variety and not get so caught with being strain tolerant to one strain. And like I'm gonna shout out a brand. I know this is commercial, but I've never talked to any of the people from this brand. And I've watched a couple videos about them, but they're called Air Bloom and they're a subsidy of CBX or Cannabiotics. And this brand, like going back to the Dope Aziola, this video obviously all had an effect on me. This guy really well spoken. I will say I understand why he's got a million subscribers. He does well produced content, but he talked about how a lot of growers like hype up like, oh, this is the only real one. Like only so and so has the real strain, right? Like the Mac one is Capulator, right? So if I'm buying Mac one from Barney's Farm or Canada Seeds or whoever, it's not Mac 1. So those are knockoffs, right? But like the general smoking community doesn't really understand how all that works. So like if somebody buys those seeds, grows Mac 1 and starts selling Mac 1 flower, then they're just going to call it Mac 1 and people are going to smoke Mac 1 and like some of them are going to think it's trash because they got some knockoff shit, right? But if you go and smoke Spartan's Mac 1 or if you meet Capulator and smoke his Mac 1, you'll know what the real shit is. And you can decide like, do I like this? Do I not like this? And a lot of people love it. It's very popular for a reason. And going back to the reason I brought up Cannabiotics is they have this brand called Air Bloom. I reshared a meme that was like talking about like how strains from the 90s are still shitting on strains now and like quoted OG Chem and Super Silver Haze, and Air Bloom does a good Super Silver Haze. They've got this good Durban. But one of the things Yola was talking about, going back to, is, oh, the people hype too much, like somebody having the real thing. But like this CBX, a good example is they have a strain called cereal milk, which most people think of cookies or whatever, that burner brand, for cereal milk. But I've tried cookie cereal milk. It's garbage. The fucking cereal milk from Cannabis is from this breeder called Limited Trees Genetics, who's a small batch breeder. And it's a completely different strain than any of the cereal milk lineages you'll see anywhere else. And it actually tastes like fucking milk, and it has like a nice sweet effect as well, depending on what kind of cereal you fucking are used to or whatever. But it's just great high, great flavor. And they're one of the brands. I gotta shout them out because like I was going to work with a brand here in Southern California, and like they're gonna do a farm. And I was trying to tell them like, all right, we bought a bunch of seeds from like Subcool, and I was like, we'll do like a small section where we do like test grows of like stuff that we can breed in house. So we'll cross this to that, and then we'll have shit that nobody else has because we made it ourselves. And that's exactly what Cannabiotics did. They took that um, cereal milk, they crossed it to their Super Silver Haze, they crossed it to a bunch of their different stuff, Mountain Express, etc. And now they've got like their whole line of cereal milk crosses, and they do these old school Air Bloom line and things. So like there, it feels to me like what a home grower would like to do if they made it into the legal market and like established a brand and gained dominance. I guess they started in Las Vegas or Nevada area, and they ended up coming back to California where they're originally from. But it just shows that like they always sell out. They only sell glass jar eighths, and whether you're in the regulated California legal market or you're a home grower and you have overages, I'll call them, and you let them go out to the community in some way, maybe get donations or sales, however it's legally available to you to get your product out there, you can do craft still, even in the most competitive market, even in the market that like most licenses have already failed and gone bankrupt, gone under. Like they're still doing it. And I don't know what their numbers are behind closed doors and their balance sheets, but from what I've seen from every one of their distributors and people in the middle, it seems like they sell out their stuff pretty fast. And it's just a good sign that even in like the people don't know all that went into it, but they know the product is good. Like most people don't grow their own. The people that are buying it are just general consumers. But even the consumer can realize like there is shit that's better. And like it's being sold at the same price as like other top tier or like middle higher tier brands, but it's just way higher quality. And like so anybody who knows, if you know, you know. It's like one of those things, you're in the know, you get it when those drops come and you enjoy it, and it's like a little treat. And I've said this a couple times, and I've had people say, "Oh, I came to California, I tried CBX on your recommendation, I fucking love it." Coming from home growers, people that are growing dank themselves. So to like hear that is it's nice to see that at least some people are doing it right. I would say 99 out of 100 are the opposite in the commercial market. So don't get your hopes too high if you're trying anything from a shop. And that's why we always go back to encouraging people to grow their own. And I guess, yeah, what
I
speaking
like
of
a
grow,
dispo is like I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the product that I find in a dispo, but I do think that, or I am thankful that they're there. And especially when I'm traveling, right? So like if I'm going someplace and I know the cannabis is legal there, but I can't travel with it on the plane or something like that. I know at the very least I can do if I don't have a friend nearby or somebody that I know, I'll have a dispo available that I'll be able to walk into and get some kind of cannabis. And I don't have to just, try to poke around and figure out what I can find. So it is still kind of a blessing to have them around in a pinch. So it's not, like I said, maybe not the greatest quality all the time, but to be able to have brand names to rely on, that's fucking invaluable.
I'll say it's also nice. Like when I was in college and just broke college student or whatever, moving out to California, getting my feet underneath me, I wasn't always growing. I was like working with or for other people and didn't have the ability to like run my own grow. And going to the dispo, I got to try a bunch of different strains that made it possible to write 50 strains of green, to write 50 strains of purple. I got to try way more, even now that I'm growing and can grow as many different varieties as that I want. I won't grow as many as I can smoke from smoking even just like buddies samples, people that I meet from this community. I'll never be able to keep up with all the different, my wife working in the industry. I get so many different things that I try way more than I'll ever be able to grow. And I'm thankful for that because it gives me perspective. Where am I actually at? I'm definitely not the top of the top. I'm, better like than, the brand new or the average or the bad, and I can get close to that top of the top and maybe even like have my strain of this. I think I could hold it up like as high as I want or whatever. It did it for me, and I'm fucking pretty picky or snobby. So I'm thankful that with all that said, that like you're saying, the dispensaries are available to make it so we could try the stuff. And like I just got my tires replaced because I'm going to be doing a little road tripping, and I like to make sure that unlike one of my anniversary trips with my wife, I ran them a little too long, and I ended up getting a flat kind of in the middle of nowhere. I had AAA or whatever, so I got towed to a tire shop, but it takes time, and that's not what you want to be doing on your anniversary road trips. So um the tire shop didn't, do it super quick either. So it was just like a hassle. And so I'm like, I'm gonna have brand new fucking great tires. And that being said, anything can happen. But while I was getting my tires fixed, I dropped the car off and I was close enough to my house that like I didn't want to like Uber or whatever. Like it was gonna take a couple hours. They're like, we're gonna be done by 3. It's like 1 o'clock. And there's this place that I just saw locally, and they're like 40% off first time. And I'm like, I'm just gonna go in and kill some time. I went and had some lunch somewhere first, and then after I had lunch, walked across the street, checked out this dispensary, and the people were nice, and I saw some brands that I liked, and I really generally just go where concerts are nice. Occasionally, my wife will get edibles and stuff. That's another thing that's nice is like you don't have to for RSO, for example, like it's pretty involved, not as bad as like bubble hat, but it takes time, effort, energy, amount of noise and things like that. So if I could just pick it up from time to time, that's a little bit more convenient or inedible or whatever. But I really like to look at our internet. Um, the, I went in and checked out some of the brands that I knew, and this, I think they've either the like are allowed to have like samples, so now they're actually like opening up a jar and letting me smell it. So I smelled this one, this Durban Poison, and I was like, oh, it smells like Durban Poison. Good. I don't really care what it was only like a little over 1% terpenes, 1.01, which I think this has a lot of esters, aldehydes, and ketones because that 1% terpenes, this is so to speak, like it's very strong nose that I think there's definitely something else in the Durban poison profile. I have to look more into that. But I think there's definitely a good amount of terpinolene. I think it says 24, and if 10% off that, because everybody rounds up 10, let's call it like 27% overall, like 18, 19 THC. Pretty solid. And I'm smoking on it. It's making me feel good. It's got good high, good effect. But that was one of the things that I got. And I got a little other one from Cam, Bubba's Girl, which ringing in at 32%, which is higher. I think a lot of the older Bubbas test lower. They've got some stuff that test low there as well, but it ends up not selling. Funny enough, like anything that's below 20% tends to not move very fast.
Yeah. And usually Durban's one of those ones that you always see it under 20%. It's usually 17 and 19% when I see it.
Right. And the what was I gonna say? There's another brand that I think I might try. It's called like No Till Kings. And I smelt that after I'd already decided on the two that I had picked. And they're like, "Oh, have you tried no tokens?" I said, "No, I haven't." And they showed it to me, and I was like already kind of set on these two, but I smelled their Durban, and it smelled good, but admittedly, this one did smell better. Um, so that said, I was happy with my choice, but I'm open to trying that one eventually. And it is just nice to it makes me feel like a college kid again when I moved out here from Ohio and I finally had access to strains with labels that like smelled pretty much like they said they were gonna smell and got you high like the descriptions on Leafly and fucking Weed Maps said. I'm like, this is a different world. This is how it should be. This is like going back to like the 1930s when they had medical cannabis like in tinctures and shit. You could just go buy it from the store and it was like part of everyday life. Like that's how it was during our medical times, and it still can be that way. I do think that we had the golden era from 1999 or 1996 to 2018 or whatever when we officially legalized. But that said, I think we're still in a golden era. You can grow your own, and there are people like CBX slash Air Bloom and others, Cam, growing good weed for the legal market. So even if people can't grow or want to try something different or are out of town and don't want to have to sneak it around because our laws, that's one thing you can't fly with it. You can't legally ship it. So if you're playing by the rules and you're traveling, then you're, definitely limiting yourself quite a bit. And so that being said, the hemp loopholes make it so you can kind of get away with a little bit more than it's not necessarily worth getting into that fight in court and saying like, oh, technically, uh, it's not THC until I heat it up. It's THCA. And then they're like, some
Yeah.
of them will throw it out, but
At
yeah,
some levels, I'm willing to argue. Like I'll argue that at the state level. I don't want to argue that at the federal level. I don't want to argue that at the international level. If I'm going out of the country, I really don't want to fuck around with that.
I've tempted those waters, and let me tell you, there's fewer things that will pucker your rear end quicker than going through international customs and then having your bag looked at a little bit more closely when you know that there's something that shouldn't be in there. And you looked up ahead of time because shout out to Loki Grow. I don't know if he's still out there doing it, but I always loved Loki's shit whenever I saw him. But um, he said, if you're not willing to do the time, then don't do the crime. And like he was real serious about it, like talking about like he was traveling. I think he was doing a live from like Jamaica or something, but he was smoking. And I was like, how are you, you brought your own shit? He's like, yeah, man, but I know the consequences. Like if I get fucking arrested, then I know what the penalty is and I'm willing to take that. I already committed to, if I do get caught, this is what I have to face. And I was like, man, that's a very adult way of looking at things. And you got to kind of man up and, realize that is sometimes there are consequences to your actions. And I was so proud of this home grow that I wanted to smuggle some of it to show my brothers. I think it was in the Dominican Republic. It's been long enough now that I can say this and not worry about it because fucking actually I don't know what their laws are like in terms of what's it called, statute of limitations, but all that shit's done smoked now, and I'm never going back to the DR. Well, not anytime soon. So, um, yeah, that said, I looked into it and it was like a fairly decent penalty, like Spartan said, for like international moving with cannabis, and even like a small amount, they consider it like trafficking and look intent to distribute, and especially if you're not from there, they kind of want to you know take you to court and really give it to you. So that's not a situation that I was looking forward to being in, but vacuum sealing and being crafty with your things can be effective. And it was, at least in my situation, but that said, it is a risk and one that I'm less willing to take the older I get. And especially now, like more and more places are legal, more and more places I can go and like, oh, Ty and fucking Johnny are in Vegas. I don't have to bring a bunch of bud. Like I'm gonna go smoke with them when I get there. I could meet up with people now, and I get not everybody's on the Cheap Home Grow podcast. They don't have people all over the country that they can lean on. But that being said, that's a reason to become part of this community. Be like the seed person ones out there making seeds and giving them away. He just hooked me up because I mentioned I gave a packet of his goth girl out to one of the veterans that I'd met up with recently, and I sent him a pack of my Velvet Punch and just like threw that in there as like an extra kind of surprise. And they were really stoked on it. And he, see person one, shout out to him. I had no idea that he's got my address now, so he can just fucking send me stuff. Get a package in the mail. And I'm like, who's this from? I didn't order anything. Like, it's got my name on there that identifies that it's for me. And I open it up and fucking sure enough, Seed Person One hooked me up with like another 10 packs. And he says, for the veterans. And then I messaged him. I said, thank you so much, man. That's super generous. And he's like, you can do whatever you want with them. And I was like, they're going to go to a good place for sure. And over time, as I link up with vets and give out seeds to vets, I'm going to be including those in there with my Velvet Punch and any other future crosses that I'll be creating and putting out there. So just awesome to see Person One, and I think that good karma goes a long way. If he's ever in fucking San Diego area, I can guarantee you I'm gonna show Seed Person One the best damn food and cannabis around because I know one, he's a foodie because his page shows some real damn good looking food, and I think he's making most of it. But I got some real good places to go out here in terms of food, and great cannabis definitely is in no short supply. So anybody who comes out to my area, hit me up. There's a real good chance, especially if you're a homie like C Person One who has done good not just by me but many others in the community. I'll be extra generous and make sure that that good karma comes back around to you because that's what it's all about. It could be 10 years from now. Like I've been doing the show almost like 6, maybe 7 or something years now, but I've always been saying I'm going to go to Michigan. But when I do eventually go, I know I'm going to have the fucking best time when I meet Spartan and the rest of the crew and all the boys there that I've kind of loosely been in touch with over the years, and like been able to follow it, even if I'm not there, like seeing hash vash, seeing this stuff, like it fills my heart full of joy. Knowing a state like Michigan, so similar to where I'm from, Ohio. Like I know that they like to hate on each other because of the college sports, but like weather,
We're
culture,
not that similar, man. Ohio's fucking like Ohio. It's so flat. They only drive 55 down there, man. They're like a mile. They're so
it
far.
is flatter. We both have Great Lakes. We both get lots of snow,
But we
lake
have
effect
all
snow.
of the Great Lakes, but you guys have one or two. Okay.
I think it's just one. I think we're just Lake Erie. I could be
Just
wrong
one?
though.
Yeah, yeah.
That said, it's the shallowest Great Lake, and they got fucking crazy waves and crazy undertow. Like a couple Navy SEALs died training out there. It's pretty wicked. But regional stuff aside, it just like it's hard for some people, and I'm sure if you're like born in California, and like some people that listen to the show, born and raised here, it's hard for them to have that perspective of like what it would have been like to be raised in the 80s, 90s, 2000s in, Ohio or even Michigan before it legalized. You might have been one of those OGs who was going to the hash bash and making hash way back then, or like your parents grew weed or whatever, and it's like that's fucking super rad. And but I still think that back then even more so than now, that's a tiny percentage of the people. And that's why like some of them, rightfully so, have the sort of street cred or like the brand because they have, hey, look at these photos of, me growing way back when or my parents growing or like the knowledge or the strains or the seeds. Like they have it because they were there, they were a part of it. And like right now we're kind of a part of it. We're still uh, I almost thought like, oh, why should I ever start a show when it got, and I didn't even start the show, but like, why would I get on shows? There's already so many out there. There's already so many people doing this, blah, blah, blah. And like, I got pulled in like the old host, just like the rest of you guys, and I'm glad that he did. But now looking at it, like, here we are 6 years later, and like, we're looked at as like a fucking staple to some people. Like, we're some people's favorite show. And like, that's not just them telling us that, that's the podcast metrics. When I go into Spotify, it says your 79 people's number one show. They listened for X amount of hours this year. It's like, holy fucking shit. That is humbling as hell. Because I know
Yeah.
like how much my favorite show means to me and how much I listen to it and how much I gain from it from X, Y, and Z. But it's just like, I never thought one person would think we're their favorite show, or two, or a dozen, or 40. But like for it to be almost like 100 now, and like even just like the people that were not your favorite, who might be in your top three or top five, top 10, that's just like astonishing to me because this was like a potential thought. This was like an idea, like me and Lady G kind of thought, like with even like the Jack Greenstock account. It was like a name that popped into my head and registered and whatever, based on partially the real name, whatever. But the reality of the fact is, it's just sometimes you can't even put something on a bucket list because you never realized it would be possible. And like from where I'm from, people were like going, I was one of the people going to the library to use their computers so that my internet wouldn't have cannabis searches on it because all the people said, and rightfully so, like Operation Green Merchant, like people got raided based on overgrow servers are still held. Somebody just made a post the other day and they're like, fuck the Epstein files. I want the overgrow servers. And I just thought that was hilarious because I was like, damn, that's a true fucking grower OG right there. Because the overgrow server is like, it was like Operation Green Merchant. Like they fucking raided and took a bunch of actual physical hard drives from computers and went and basically chased down a bunch of grows and grow shops. And that really, it was like one of the real life. This was before the YouTube purge. This was like a real life fucking grow purge. A bunch of growers got wrapped up. And a lot of them are unfortunately became federal agents and like ruined their reputation in the community and put a bunch of other people behind bars. So like there's been some dark ages in the cannabis community. So it's like so important for us to be able to be out in the open, to be able to stand as a community and like support each other and like say, hey, you're coming to my state, like don't get wrapped up on a fucking trafficking charge because you brought some weed or hash to my state. Like I've got you. I'll hook you up.
No, but it's a war, man. It's the war to, to free cannabis, and it's important to know those battles, whether it was a win or a loss for us. It's a battle that we still bounce back from, and we're still here, and we still move forward, and we still getting progress. Still a lot of work to be done, that's for sure. But I'm encouraged because, and I've said this before, but I'm encouraged because If you just look from the activist side of things, how quickly government and laws usually move and change, and how quickly they've been changing in the recent history within the last 5 to 10 years for cannabis all across the United States and the world, even. It's monumentally quick. It's extremely fast. And it's easy, like we talked about being in our own bubbles where we do a weekly show. Some of us do several weekly shows, and it's like we're in this. We live in it. Like Noah, he's like, he's living this stuff. He's probably watering right now as we're speaking. And but that's not every person's experience, right, with cannabis. Most people, if they even experience cannabis at all, it's just them smoking it or consuming it. And so the grow side of things, we're just such a huge minority, such a huge minority. So I don't know, just to beat home that whole message of to divide into silly camps of salts versus organics, or more organic than I'm more organic than, or this or that. It's just silly. We should be really uniting together and saying, no, we should be able to grow this whatever fucking way. If you're growing it, you're my friend, because I think that's awesome to grow it and not rely on a company to grow it for you. And or if you're growing for somebody else, that's even a step more, because there's a lot of people who can't, and there's, they need it for the medicine, and they just don't have the ability to grow it for themselves. That's coming right out of my heart. That's the caregiver aspect. Um, and to just divide ourselves over stupid petty bullshit, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't move us forward. We need to protect what we have, because we're still a tiny portion of the population, uh and if we don't speak up for ourselves as growers, as home growers, especially is what I'm talking about, then we will lose our right to home grow. It was hard fought, all these battles. We can't forget, don't let them go for naught.
110%. Like a lot of dominoes have fallen in the right direction, but they could just as easily start falling the opposite direction because, maybe a few corporate deals. There's a lot of corporate capture from automotive to air to whatever. There's a lot of industries that are kind of captured, and there's a lot of oversight and regulation that makes it so only a few big companies win. And, for the most part, people, the government, et cetera, don't seem to care too much about that. So it's on us to remind people to that we shattered that narrative of, oh, if you legalize cannabis, then XYZ, insert reefer madness campaign ad or whatever propaganda. Because I heard it, you heard it, we all heard it, and we still might, depending on where you're at. Cannabis is bad for X, Y, Z reason. And if you legalize, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen. What actually happens? Look at every single state. Like crime falls. Like generally, people stop taking some more harmful drugs. It's a harm reducing act. And I can't find a state that has had large scale negative consequences since they legalized. So whenever people start to push back, it's like, show me the data because I'm not cherry picking. This is politicians and people in the government that are like, hey, I was against this. Now I'm for it because it brought us a shit ton of tax revenue, crime's down, it's less people getting killed over it. And so, and less energy is being stolen, and less plastic bottles are being dumped in the woods, and less chemicals are being run off into the streams because it's all in the light. It's all regulated now. It's all part of, and hopefully less regulation in the sense of like we should be able to grow it in our front yard like a tomato eventually, or like you could grow rosemary or basil. It should be
Let's go
treated.
one step further and say we should be able to have a roadside stand and sell it in our front yard like it's a tomato. That's what we
Absolutely.
should be able to do.
Absolutely. And in certain circumstances, like in California, that there are people that have the opportunity on a small set of circumstances, but it depends on your city, your state, and even counties. That it is important to be active at all levels, even like federally, to get better federal cannabis policy, because that is one kind of overarching thing is we haven't cracked that nut yet. A lot of states have cracked the nut of moving positive direction for cannabis, at least allowing people to grow their own, allowing there to be a legal market. But that federal one is still a giant kind of ugly overhang, other than like the what I'm going to just call a giant loophole of the hemp farm bill. Granted, it legalized like an actual legitimate hemp industry. It opened up an underground, just high THC, a cannabis industry, which is just like basically cannabis that's, you and I would smoke like homegrown, but because of the testing, the way that it works, it's if it's not burnt yet, it's mostly or all THCA. So it's below that 0.3% THC, which is the regulation. And a bunch of them are trying to fight to close that loophole. So who knows how long that'll even stay open for. Um, I actually kind of like that it's open, to be honest, just because I think it creates a little bit of chaos in the market and it allows a lot more people to operate, even like small scale operators. So like I use it for seeds, for example. Seeds have zero point 0.0 THC, so I can legally sell them and advertise it and send them. And you could do it for like bird feed or fishing lure or whatever, or collectibles before were the loopholes. But now this is another loophole on top of it. And like it feels a lot more legitimate to say, these are zero point 0.0 THC seeds. If you choose to grow them, then do your own research, look at your local laws, and if you break the law, that's on you. You can't come at Jack Greenstock for sending you Velvet Punch seeds. If you go and grow them in China or something, right? And you bought them in Florida or something, but you fly back to China and try and grow them and you get yourself in fucking trouble. Like that's not on me. You have to look up your own local regulations and guidelines. So that's a something that I think is a positive in terms of like people having access to seeds is how the modern cannabis market as we know it kind of started through like Neville and the seed bank, which eventually became Sensi Seeds, and like Keys with Super Sativa Seed Club, and even before that, the Cultivator's Choice and that crew. Um, RIP Skunk Man Sam, I do believe that he was part of it. And I still need to do more research and go back and watch more of the stuff on the Cultivator's Choice and debunking of some of the Skunk Man Sam uh, sort of uh, maybe myths we could call them, or criticisms, critiques, etc. But yeah, it's we couldn't be here without him and so many other people, like so many unnamed. I shouldn't say faceless, but to our community, to our knowledge.
Well, a lot of them, their own choice. They don't want the names out there, which is respectable. I've run into so many people that way, and they're some of the nicest goddamn people you run into.
Honestly, I feel that way. Like I'm sort of like this is a pen name, and like my camera is shitty enough. Slash, like, granted, I got recognized at a event that I was at, so it's good enough that you guys know what I actually look like. But that said, like even though we've got a decent size, small following, but like I don't feel like it's not like I'm Johnny Depp where I've got to like have a fake car leave so that I'm not tailed by paparazzi, right? Like I have no level of actual fame. Like I would hate to be really famous, like even like the million followers on YouTube, because that's where you're starting to get like people are interrupting your lunch, like your daily day-to-day life. Like I've always said like I'd much rather take a wealth over fame any day. Because even if you could have both, like I'd be like, I'll just take the money, leave the fame. And I think that's not to make it about money, but a lot of these OGs did make a decent little living for themselves and were doing it while it wasn't legal. And so I get why a lot of them aren't coming out because they might have, houses, cars, jewelry, etc., that was purchased during times of making lots of money off cannabis. And I have nothing against that at all. Like I'm glad make hay while the sun is shining. That's what people did. Like when it was illegal, if you had the balls to grow, the tax was I'm gonna sell it for a lot more because I might fucking go to jail for life for this shit. Right? No, if you're not risking it, you can't fucking sit here and criticize like the people that did. So I'm not gonna be one of those people. Some people are like, oh, these people were selling it for 6, 7,000 a pound when it was only costing them X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, but their life, their dog's life, like their family's life, were all constantly like Aaron the Grower, I think, posted it a long time ago. There was a meme of like a really old guy smoking a cigarette, and he's like, "What do you mean smoking cannabis is stressful? I'm only 30." And like the guy's like very clearly like wrinkled and like aged, but he looks like he's maybe in his late 60s or something, and like he's lived a tough life, grays, and just kind of looks a little bit more beat up, rough looking guy. And it rings true a little bit because even now, with like in a legal state, there's stresses that come along with it, like oh fuck, like my clones didn't root, or my power went out, or my water changed. Like it used to be good and now it's shit because the well is drier and now my ppms are like 1,000. So I've got to filter the shit out of it. Where before I was able to use it and it was like 001 or whatever. So there's all these things that can cause stress in a grow. Your plants get light burn because you tried a new light out and you ran it a little too hot. And it's like your favorite cut now is looking like it's a little fucked up. And you've been running it for years under that old light. And it's like, why the fuck did I switch? And I think we've all kind of been there for these moments in growing where it's like you're wanting to pull your hair out. But ultimately, it's worth those shortcomings, I think, are the greatest lessons. The I try to learn from the mistakes of others. Life's too short, so let others make the mistakes for you, is one of the quotes I've heard. But or learn from the mistakes of others just generally. But it's so hard to. It's easier said than done. I'll say that. It's a lot easier to learn from a mistake that you've made firsthand.
And when you make one firsthand and it like costs you a lot of either heartbreak or really dollars or whatever aggravation, it like is more to cement it into your memory, right? Like, don't do that again. Remember last time? That was terrible. Let's not do this, you know? We gotta do something different. We can't expect different results if we continue to do the same things. So, I mean, at least heed that. At least heed that, like, just there's nothing more frustrating than doing the same thing again and again and getting the same results that you're not happy with. So you've got to change something then.
That's
Um,
important is you learn from the mistake. I was listening to this craftsman, he learned from a OG and they were picking out like a certain wood to use. And the old guy picked like all the best stuff and then he just let the other dude pick his own stuff. And when they got to using it and making the wood product, he ended up saying like, "Man, why'd you let me pick that wood? Like you got all the best stuff and I got some real shitty chunks." And he's like, "Well, you're not going to do that again, are you?" And it's like sometimes you almost have to let people make those mistakes for themselves because as much as you want to help them avoid it, it's like if you only ever let your child drive a bike with training wheels, they're never going to actually learn how to ride the bike, right? So you got to take the training wheels off at some point. And at that point, they're going to make some mistakes. They might fall and, you know, put a helmet on them or some pads or whatever you want to do. Maybe ride in the grass or something, not on concrete. But eventually they're going to make mistakes, they're going to fail, but they're going to learn from it and hopefully get better and hopefully learn how to ride. And once you do, it's one of those things that it's kind of like a lifelong skill. And even if you take a break, you can kind of come back and it's not like you're learning to grow again for the first time. You've got a lot more experience and past, knowledge that you can refer to that you're like, you know what, if I want to start back up, I'm going to start back this time. This is how I'm going to do it. And these are all the things I'll need. And it's just so much easier than your first time where it's like, all right, what do I need? I'm going to Google what is everything I need to grow cannabis. It's like, all right, seeds, soil, water, light. Okay, what else do I need? It's like, do you really need a tent? You can get away with growing it in a closet without a tent. Blah, blah, blah. It's like you have all these little debates. Do I need a ppm meter? You can kind of get away without it, but it's probably better to have one. That's something I would actually recommend if you're going to grow with hydroponics. Definitely go that route. Just as a quick and dirty 2 cents on that. I tried doing it without one, and I got away with it. Grew some good stuff, but it's a nice option to have, especially if shit starts going south. Once you dial something in with it, you can maybe get away from using it every time or all the time, but it's a nice metric to have.
and I would really, this is not a cheap one by any means, but for the growers that have most everything, you're not your this has not been your first grow. This is your fifth or 10th or 15th grow. The one tool you probably don't have, but would really help your grow quite a lot is a light meter. And one that can read into if you can get one that reads into the far red, that'd be even better. Then you're going to be able to read the true PPF out of a lot of these grow lights that include, because a lot of these top end grow lights now include far red. And the PPF, these especially the lower end light meters won't read that far. So you want like an E-par meter, one that will include all the way into the far red, and you can really up your game then. You can do things like you can bring your lights closer if you have a bar light where it's already spread as good. You can bring them closer to get them to your target PPF and then just dim them to save power. Uh, or you could just make sure that you have the correct, light throughout your canopy if you have more than one light source, if you got side or under canopy lighting. It's going to be a tool that you'll use if you're not using it now. It'll be something you'll use probably for the rest of your grow to stop guessing. And I don't know, really, when I had my pulse meter, the Pulse Pro, it has like a way to measure the PPF and it even gives you a spectrum. But when I started like testing around the room and it's just like, wow, to two spots that you really think look almost exactly identical. One's way different than the other. So it's like it really reinforces to myself that my old ass eyes really aren't I can't really believe them as much as what I thought I could.
No
So
one's eyes are good enough. The difference between 600 ppf and 1,000, your naked eye is not telling that difference, especially in a grow room, especially with the reflective materials around. That meter, that being said, like I do think you might want to wiggle it around a little bit just to get a general sense because like the buds are not a perfectly flat sheet. They are a rounded surface or whatever. So like the light is gonna, you know, hit it maybe not in just a direct way. So getting an idea that I always like just kind of you're gonna get similar. It might be like 600, 675, 680, 690, 700, as you get a little bit higher. And it is so valuable to know. It's just like otherwise you're not that you're growing blind, you can read the plants. The plants will tell you, but it's usually a few days later. If you, especially if they grew up, they got too close. Now they're getting stressed. You don't know at day one, you don't know at day two. Day three, they start to show sign. Day four, they're like damaged, right? And it just gets worse and worse until you make the correction, either dimming the light, raising the light. Um, I do like the idea of I'm somebody who likes to be in the grow room. So if I'm ideally growing, I'll be in there twice a day. And so in the morning and at night. So, before lights on, before or and after. And like you can see, especially during like the most productive stages of growth, I think you can get like 3 to 4 inches in a day. So if you get your light dialed into the space where like if it does like they're stretching like crazy, um, maybe raise that light up just a little bit so that that section where the tops are going to be will be in the appropriate range, depending on even if they grow another 1, 2 inches. Like if you've got it so maxed out that you're at already at 1,000 at the top, well, when they grow that inch, two, three, they're going to be at 1,300 or whatever. So knowing that the plants are growing, especially during critical stages of growth, it's maybe okay to have them be at 800, 850, because the next morning when they pop up, they're going to be in that 1,000 range. And unless you have CO2 pushing over 1,000, you really better be dialed in because plants grow great at 800, 750.
I
Like
was
you
gonna
really
say
don't need 1,000.
I wouldn't even push 800. I wouldn't go much higher than 800 unless you're adding CO2 for sure. And that's probably one of the biggest things is like I would say the majority of the major grow light companies, if you buy whatever their top of their line or their, main line grow light is, it's going to output more light than you're going to need most of the time, most situations. So it's like if you're running a grow light out of the box at 100%, you're probably running too much light on canopy if you're just guesstimating. But if you have a meter in there that's telling you you got the right amount, then, that's what I would believe more than even than myself. But, I wouldn't be doing much more than 800 unless you're giving it some CO2 to, and then when you add CO2, now you make sure you might have to add feed, watch your plant, you're adding light you can up all of these things, but it's going to require something else more. Everything else probably get a little bit more. And when you're up in the light, you're bringing a little bit more heat into the room, which means the dehue might kick on more. And that means you might have to, your plant dries out a little bit more. You might have to water it more often or a little bit more volume. All these things are connected, so be prepared for that.
I do like and I know anthropomorphizing or comparing to like a vehicle is definitely not proper to do when we're talking about botany or whatever. But we're humans, so it's easy for us to picture and then learn when we compare it to stuff like that. But like with a sports car, if you like took off your intake or added in a new cold air intake or did something significantly to like, change how the engine operated, like you're gonna like gain or lose some horsepower, and that's gonna change functionally like how the car feels, how the car drives. And in the grow, like if you are changing some very critical pivotal function, then it's gonna essentially like CO2 is, if people don't already realize this, it's necessary. 400 is the base level, 400 ppm to 440 or whatever baseline. If you double that, you can effectively raise your ppfd like 250 to 500 without doing much else, as long as everything is appropriately kept in check. You're watering enough, you're giving enough nutrient. Most people aren't doing those things as well as they could be. So if you just double the CO2 and then start cranking more light, you're going to start to see the edges start to show. You're going to see those nutrient deficiencies. You might see, hey, this is too much light, even though Jack said I can double my thing because I doubled my CO2 or whatever. Maybe you misheard or misremembered or whatever, and it's like, no, you can go up like 250 ppf, not like double your ppf or whatever, and like so you fry it. But that being said, even if you went up like the full 500, some people do run like 1350, 1500, whatever, and quote unquote get away with it. I do think that there's probably that's where you start to get into like I think these ultra big commercial facilities that are pushing for the bulkiest bulk that are trying to get the maximum grams per watt or maximum pounds per light. You're just that's where the diminishing returns, in my opinion, comes in. Like if you're gonna get 7 pounds of light, it's not gonna be the terpiest, dankest smoke. Like it's gonna sacrifice a little bit.
Well, you have to also consider that in those situations, the tiny little bit changes make a hell of a lot of difference because then you're in a big harvest. So like instead of harvesting a couple pounds out of your, 1 liter or something, you're harvesting fucking 60 pounds, and a change that you made might be a difference. That's a one percentage, but 1% 60 pounds is still fucking money, man. And so that's in those situations is where they're willing to spend the money or the investment because it will come back to them. With margins as tight as they're starting to become, though, too, they're well, they're doing things like, especially in the lighting games, you're seeing the adaptation of new technology and lighting quickly into commercial settings because they're able to do it free to low cost, and they're doing it through energy rebates. A lot of these energy companies, unfortunately, don't offer rebates to a home customer because it's what, one, two lights, something like that. But when you're talking about a commercial facility with 100 or 1,000 lights, and they're willing to upgrade to a more energy efficient light, they'll rebate them for that. And a lot of companies are able to really leverage a rebate by going from 1,000 watt HPS. So if they're going to go from 1,000 watt HPS and go to LED, they leverage so much money in these rebates that a lot of time the fixtures that they're replacing with become free to them after the rebate. So they pay for the fixtures, they get them installed, they show that it's all up and going usually. Sometimes it even requires an inspection by the utility company. And then the utility company rebates them either through power incentives or to actually gives them the money right back.
To
And
me, that makes sense. Why not? I mean, I
yeah,
hate to say it, like I'm all for the little guy, but like in reality, like I could pollute as much as I could possibly do, me as a one individual, like crank as many lights as I possibly can in the square footage of my house and just like use as much gasoline, use it as an individual. The amount of damage I can do to the environment is so much less than what like is being done by commercial fishing or commercial cannabis growing indoors under HPS. Not to say that it should be banned or anything, but like when there are alternatives, uh, and I'm talking like the massive scale, like I would think it'd be terrible if a state said like Noah can't use an HPS light to grow in his garage. Like that to me is like fucking a criminal injustice to people's freedom.
well, it's super advantageous to the utility too, because then now they have pretty much the schematics of the power draw that you will require at your facility. And they have that information already. And they're gonna have less of a power draw from your facility from what they're using, and
It's
then
a
you
win-win
can
because the
somebody
community
else.
wins because even now, like if there's a brownout or a blackout, part of that is because the strain on the grid and that let's say commercial facility that's running 100 lights. So if they have 100,000 waters, which are really running like 1115 or like 1150, and like a lot of the commercial facilities, they're running them fully maxed and like the drivers aren't perfectly efficient or whatever. But even if we're running them like 220, like the more efficient ways, um, you're still running like 1,000 or more watts per light. And if they drop from that to like seven, eight, 900, even if they just dropped 100 watts, which I think LEDs are enough more efficient that you could get away with like seven or 800.
Oh,
But
dude,
let's,
it's even more than that now. Now we're throwing together packages where it's like you'll put a you'll go from 1,000 watt HPS above to 600 to 700 watts above with bar lighting. Maybe it's a 1,000 watt light dim down. but still 70, we'll go to 700 watts above, and even 150 watts below, 200 watts below with under canopy lighting. You're still coming in with a power savings. You still qualify for all the rebates, and now you're getting a high adaptation for these companies to try the under canopy, and they're getting bigger yields because they have they're evening out their light distribution through canopy vertically rather than just horizontally, and they're seeing higher yields because of it,
Well,
and
in the
still
case of like
consuming less power, right? So they're still
no
not
bulb
using 1,000 watts.
replacements,
And
think
no
about
bulb.
like if you're so like Noah running 3 to 5 lights, if he replaced them every 6 months for the rest of his life, if he grew for 5 decades, it would equal what one commercial facility uses in one room in 2 cycles, right? Because they have 100 lights. They're swapping them all out every 6 months to a year. And so like everybody wins. Like there's mercury and other shit in those bulbs that we don't need going to landfills or even recycled properly how they're supposed to. Um, there's costs and energy that goes into disassembly of them and things like that, where the LEDs are, make it once and it lasts several years. The the grow switch so that now when LEDs were first getting hot in like 2017 when I started going on to these shows, um, I saw a lot of people go LED and then switch back to CMH or HPS, but now 22, 20, 2024, 2025, almost never seeing that story anymore. I think a lot of people are learning, but that's a grow show going on tonight. I cut out, saw
Yeah,
connection unstable.
yeah, you're starting to robot a little bit. You got a little bit
Okay,
of
do
a
you have Michigan Bros Grow Show tonight?
no, there is no Michigan Bros Grow Show tonight, so I'm happy
We've
to
got you for
hang
the
out.
final 14.
Yeah, man.
Good
Hell
stuff.
yeah.
The whole energy thing is can be I personally think that like people should have the free with halide, which is the least efficient current bulb that's still like being produced. And you want to do like a room of 50 of those, that's your prerogative, and that's what you want to do. Fucking do it, dude. Fucking, I hope you go get a solar panel or something and set it up to offset some of that electrical use or whatever. But that's just my own personal way of wanting to do things in terms of like how cool is it that you can literally like have a sun powered grow like Dr. MJ's house. He's got the solar fucking get up more than covers his grow. So like his shit's technically like grown power of the sun, which is it's not sun grown, but it was powered by the sun. And so grown indoor. How about that? And so, like Spartan was just saying, if you were a 1,000 watt guy and you're 4x4, 5x5, whatever, and you switch to LED and you're doing like 700 above and like, on this, you're looking like 200, that's going to crank out more bud than almost everybody I know can smoke once you get it dialed in. Cause I'm using less than I'm typically smoking. So it's, you'd be surprised how much these things can crank out.
Yeah, the efficiency of the lights is where you win because you're not creating so much you're not creating so much heat, but you do still create heat. And the good thing about moving that around in your canopy, not just above it, is you even out heat just like you even out light, which also helps you even out VPD ranges throughout the canopy, helps you with the biggest thing in my mind is the benefit of keeping the microclimates out of the inner canopy. So what I think about there is like PM, molds, things like that like to hang out in the under canopy and this, the darker, less airy spots, to be able to bring heat in that area, to bring it warmer so that the moisture can sit in the air rather than be sitting on the leaves. I think that's another huge benefit
So
of the under canopy.
less pesticides have, you know, the same quality or better crop. That's an amazing win. That's a huge like, because the less have clean crops, the better. and like even like the UVC lights being implemented as opposed to spraying, I'm 1,000% on board for it. As long as there's not some crazy repercussion to the grower of the plant, which it turns out there's not. Unless you're like in there putting your face up against the UV lights or whatever, like while they're
Yeah,
running, which every legitimate warnings room or without heavy protection. So I
yeah. You just
think,
actually just don't be in the room. That's the thing. It's like you can set it on a timer and make sure that it's during the time where it's the lights are out and nobody's in the room. That's you're not going to be safer than that.
and it's more effective.
And it's more.
Grow back in the day, I think it was called like a clean VC hand. You could like go wave around your plants when
Yeah,
they
the clean
have or
light.
whatever. Clean light. And so he still had PM issues, like even with using that. And I think had he had something where you could be like, I'm gonna run this for 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, however many.
But that's the thing is that there's the difference is that's the it's a great thought process being able to sit there and spot treat. But what you really need to be effective is to treat the entire area all at the same time. Because we're looking at it as a pesticidal thing. He was looking at more as a fungal thing, but you want to treat everything all at once so that there's no place to hide, right? You can't if you treat say this section over here, then everything moves to this section. And then when you treat this section, so you move those bars. Because people have said, what if I just buy one set of the bars and treat this, double the area? It's like that sounds like that will work, but then think about it. Everything's going to go one way, and then you move it to the other side, everything's going to go the other way. You're not technically treating everything. But if you light up the whole canopy, under canopy, all at once, there's nowhere for them to really go. And it's going to do a better job.
Plus, it's like with the clean light situation, going back to like the whole human thought process, you're gonna treat the spot that looks like it has mold or mildew, and probably not just go wave it all around the other spots in the plant. There's other that you don't see, and sorry kind of thing. Unless you have some really high quality microscope or you got really good eyes with the drip and that stuff, it's you either spray something on it to coat the entire plant or use a light. And I think the light is, I like least the light. I'm gonna look into something like that because to be honest, I almost never spray anyway. If I can give myself one more tool in my tool belt to not have to, then I'm kind of open to that. Oh hell yeah, that's one of my favorite.
Here we
Spotlight
go.
and Noah. Noah's
It's
in the
some
grow.
HPS. Seeing some HPS spectrum now,
Yeah, got some
man.
HPSs going here. Um, yeah, it's my birthday's coming up, and that's usually when I switch my bulbs. I usually go 8 months a year just because I'm cheap and I notice it a little bit at the end, but not much. I know guys who are growing with bulbs that are like 3, 4 years old. That's not for me. But
That's pushing it.
yeah, it is. I knew a guy. I know a guy who has a light that a bulb that has like a bulge on the side of it. I'm like, what the heck is going on over
I,
here?
w-
Oh,
I would be when you switch your lights, I'd be selling him your used lights, man. That's what I'd be doing.
what's that?
Sell him your used lights,
I
Oh
bro.
said,
yeah, yeah.
I said, when you switch out your lights, I'd be like, here you go, man. What do you want for
I'll
Man,
give it
free?
to you for
Give you,
$5, dude.
give you
ten
a
bucks.
yeah,
Who
deal,
gives a
bro.
shit?
absolutely. Yeah, I used to save the bulbs, and then, dude. Okay, here's the thing. I used to take the bulbs to the grow store, and I knew the guy who owned the grow store, and then he passed away. And then the new guy, I go, so I can bring my bulbs in here, right? And he goes, yeah, sure, if you want, we'll throw them away for you. I go, what do you mean? I was kind of naive. I thought that they like, did something. And he goes, oh no, I just throw them in the dumpster. And I'm like, oh man. So I contacted the local power company, and they will take them from you for free. So that's what I did last year, and I have some saved up, and I'm just going to take them all to them and let them dispose of them because that's what I always worry about. Because I am an old school hippie myself, so
And
I
good on you.
just
Even if we
yeah,
are a small fraction of like the pollution or environment, if we can lessen it, I'm all for being less. I love my, modern, as ultra efficient as I can be stuff. But like even with the HPS, like there's
They were
good
laughing
ways to
at
do it
me.
and bad ways to do it.
They were laughing at me, and I'm just like, man, I'm trying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to.
There's
I'm
a no shame in caring about Mother Earth,
no,
bro.
no, man,
This
for
planet's
sure.
beautiful, and to preserve it as much as we can and to care about what we do, whether it's like what we eat or how we grow or where we buy our shit. And um, nobody's gonna be perfect all the time, right? There's gonna be some stuff where there's some bottom line that we're not thinking about or it is not perfect or whatever. But as much as we can strive to be good or to be better, like definitely not just throwing them in the dumpster because
Totally.
they're not going to go rooting through the dumpster to realize that those are in there. They're just going to get smashed and then dumped
Yeah.
into a dump site. And then that mercury and shit is like now into the local environment. And like you live in that local environment, like
Yes.
some people don't think about that kind of shit. And it's
I
like,
know.
I get sad when I see fucking litter on the side of the road, bro. Like I used to go to and still occasionally will bring a bag down to the beach and just pick up as much shit as I can on like my walk to and from and just like pick up as much garbage
Like
as I see. Leave it better than you
like
find it.
tubes? Is that what you mean? Like these fucking single pack
Oh
tubes?
man,
God
that makes me
damn.
sad.
That's a
We
huge downside of the cannabis industry is all the packaging waste. I saw a meme about it
big
years ago. It's like
time.
my OG dealer, you'd go and there'd be like plastic sandwich baggie, but like better yet, like you could bring a jar. I would bring a mason jar over to my homie's house and he'd fill up the jar of whatever. I'd get a few different ones. I'd bring like 3, 4 jars over, get half ounce of this, ounce of that. And there was zero waste. Like not a single fucking ink or cardboard or plastic or mylar was used in the process. It was like just like you buy fucking, strawberries, you can go hand pick them at some of the farms, right? You could bring your own bag, no waste and like no fucking around. I and it wasn't what I was thinking about when you were talking about after I mentioned the cleaning up the beach. Thankfully, people here are pretty not all, but I'd say more often than not, people are fairly conscious of like not littering the beaches especially, but like just the general area. Like when I see it, I'd say it's more rare than it happens in certain spots. Like there are like when you go out to like national forest, there's like dump sites where like off the side of the highway, people will like instead of paying to get their couch thrown away, they'll just pull off the side of the road and like throw it over a cliff. And it's like,
Man.
That pisses me the fuck
Me
off. I
too,
hate
man.
that.
There's a really cool river spot that I've been going to since I was 16 years old. So we're talking 30 years. And it's a locals only spot. Like I know people that have lived here for 25 years didn't even know it existed. You have to like go through like this like gravel pit area to get back there. And I always pick up trash when I was back there. And literally last summer, I found some of those tubes on the ground. And man, I was like, come on. This is in the middle of nowhere. This is like a mile hike in. You got to go through these like ravines that during the winter are like runoff, like part of the river. And you go through these, little like dry gulches to get to it. And it's like a really cool spot. Only reason I even know is somebody I know was like lived out there for a summer when they were homeless. Like when I was a kid, they told me about it. And me and my family have been going there forever. And seeing those back there, man, was really a bummer. And I picked them up. But
good on you,
yeah,
man. I
that
mean, like you
bums
said,
me
old
out.
school hippie. I love that mentality though, to like
Yeah.
we can make it better. We can be the ones to come along and like I unfortunately wasn't able to fucking haul this couch out of this mountainous
Oh
drop
man.
or whatever, but whenever I do see stuff that I can make better, I will. And do what I can to try and just leave it better than we found it. Whether it's like a
Yeah.
table at a restaurant, wiping it down, like, just wipe it off with a fucking napkin or something. It's like yeah, sure, there's gonna be like some buster that comes around with the rag or whatever. But like I don't know, just helping out, picking up here and there where we can. And I'm sure people are like, I got enough on my plate. I don't need to be helping out more people. But it's that it's honestly, it's invigorating. It gives you energy. You might think it's gonna take your energy, but really it charges you up. Like once you start to realize like the good that you're doing, and then like you see the positive, you'll get a thank you here and there. You'll get a smile. You'll get a fucking pat on the back and attaboy, a great job. And even if you don't, just doing it for yourself, just like, hey, I like things to be like a cleaner, nicer, better place. So I'm gonna make it part of my objective, just to do a little bit. Not saying you have to like make it your life's goal, but I think it is one of the missions that we as a community can all strive to be a little better at. But that said, it is coming into the 6 o'clock hour, so I'm going to pass it first to Spartan Grown for final thoughts and shout outs before we wrap it up.
Shout out to Genetic Memory Farms, man. I agree with the vape carts. It's another thing that we should be ashamed of, I guess, is those damn air quote disposable vape carts. Yeah, that's another one. Hopefully we can figure out a different way. Those are so convenient though, right?
Oh yeah, the batteries. I mean, it's literally like a one-time use. That to me makes no sense. I'd rather get like if it's gonna be a vape cart, give me a 510 adjustable, whatever I can take off the top, refill them, or even like the like humble vape tech style where you just get like a battery and like a little or like a Puffco or whatever. You can just like buy once, cry once, and use it for a long ass time. And
Or we can get a mushroom to grow mycelium in the shape of the vape cart that we need. And then we could just have mycelium shaped vape carts that we just fucking can hit, and that'll be fine, I
that'll
guess.
be wild when it
Yeah.
happens.
There it
Manifesting it.
is. Free idea. Anybody can jump on that. You can put my beard on it. You don't even gotta put my face, just my beard. Put that on it and we're good. You don't even gotta give me no
The
money.
mycelium will actually naturally do it because you actually spoke it into existence. So it'll manifest itself. And
There you go. There you go.
that's
But other
right.
than that, just I think we just have to protect, even though we're the 1% or maybe 3% or whatever it is, but we're the growers, guys. And that's the one thing that we always have to protect. And that's the one thing that we have in common and the one thing that holds us together. And so that let's not divide ourselves with these political times that are easy to divide us on. The one thing we can come together on and to tell our local politicians, state politicians, and federal politicians is that cannabis is good and it's worth the right to grow it. It's our medicine. So other than that, much love and keep growing, everybody.
Absolutely. Very wise words, as always, by Spartan Grown. I will say, shout out to Genetic Memory Farms. He is one of several who just got the wrench tonight. So, congratulations on your new moderator status. If you see somebody acting up in chat, you can give them a timeout or maybe even hide them on the channel or whatever if they're being real crazy, like sending some crazy spam links. You've been around for so long, and so a handful of others got the wrench tonight. I think St. Bernard's observation booth and a few others got them, but we've got plenty of really good ones in the chat and even more to be added in the future. But with that said, last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening is Noah the Grower.
Yeah, I had a great time as always. The one thing I'll say is I never wanted to interrupt before the show, so I was listening a lot earlier. I didn't talk as much, but man, I had when I first came to the show, when the former host brought me, I was very cocky. I thought, oh man, I'm the best grower because I had so many people tell me that, and I got humbled real quick being around other OG growers, and it's kept me hungry. And I always try to do the best I can, and I just have so much fun with it. I have a lot of fun learning from everybody on the show. Next show, I'm going to make sure I go into the chat. I haven't been in them in a while. I'm going to go in there and talk to everybody. I'm Noah the Girl on Instagram. I'll see everybody next week.
Thanks for coming, Noah. I honestly feel the exact same way. Like it's humbling to your local homies and friends might your wife or even yourself might think, man, I grow some dang shit or like this is the fire or whatever. But the more and more people you get to try their stuff and it's like there are some fucking real wizards out there, dude. Like my buddy Vegan Doja, the Doja DNA, the dude that I got the Velvet Punch and Spike Punch from, when I tried his Frenchy cannoli uh fucking Temple Ball hash for the first time, that was one of those, like Spartan said, with concentrate. While I was inhaling, my eyes like literally like opened up wider. I was like, holy shit. I'm feeling actively myself getting very high before I even exhaled. Like while I was still taking the hit, I was like, holy fuck, this is good. It tastes good and it's strong. And it's just like that's one of the things that I really live for at this point is to like get that great experience and not just from my own garden, but to get to have the joy of when people are so proud of their work that they're willing to share it. I'm not buying it from these people. They're just like, oh, you got to try this. I knocked it out of the park, like pat on my own back. And then it's like, it really does show me like there's a fucking really, really high level. Like I can grow some dank and get it up towards that high level. But some of y'all, I think even on this panel, like are growing some stuff that is just fantastic. And it's a beauty to see. It keeps us motivated, keeps us growing better and keep on growing that dank. That said, I'm at Jack Greenstock. Y'all know where to find me. Peace and love, y'all. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.